An unlikely situation, an unexpected result, how the New York Jets managed to overcome being 18-point underdogs to defeat the Baltimore Colts in Super Bowl III. Turn back the clocks to 1968. Elvis was making a comeback special, the first Big Mac was being served, and the most iconic upset in football history was about to occur. You are watching the biggest upset in Super Bowl history. One could argue for the 12-point underdog New York Football Giants of Super Bowl 42, defeating the dynasty New England Patriots and stopping them from achieving the much-coveted perfect season. One could argue for that very same coached and quarterback New England Patriots who managed to trump the greatest show on turf, the St. Louis Rams, as 14-point underdogs at Super Bowl 36. Or even Elway getting over the hump against Favre at Super Bowl 32 as 11-point underdogs. But by the numbers, this distinction belongs to the New York Jets over the Baltimore Colts in Super Bowl III as an astounding 18-point underdog. An 18-point underdog pulling off a victory is very significant, not to mention an 18-point underdog pulling off the upset in the biggest game on the biggest stage of the year. Since 2003, there have only been 18 underdogs of 17 points or more. Out of those 17 hopeful dogs, only one of them managed to snatch victory. I'm sure 2018 Survivor Pool competitors can remember the shockwaves sent through their pools by the Week 3 road drubbing handed down by the Buffalo Bills to the Super Bowl contending Minnesota Vikings. Those are long odds to say the least. To go even longer, the underdogs of that size have gone an abysmal 15-145 for a win rate of just 10.3% in the Super Bowl era. Now, despite the Jets being huge underdogs, they were a competent ball club back in 1968. They managed to top their division and finish second in the American Football League. At this time, they were split into the AFL and NFL rather than the AFC and NFC. At the time, the NFL was considered the more popular and talented league over the AFL. The AFL's Jets finished with a respectable 11-3 record with an unusually large 11 Pro Bowlers. Most notably, their quarterback and playboy of the time, Broadway Joe Namath.
I want to kiss you.
This was the first time the Jets had made the playoffs since the franchise's inception as the New York Titans in 1960. The Jets also had a mediocre coach in Weeb Eubank, a true spitting image of Jeff Fisher in the 60s, with his career record of 130 and 129, good for a .502 winning percentage. It's safe to say the Jets were a team that hadn't been there before. One of the more bolder proclamations in all of sports history, and the reason why this game still lives in NFL infamy is because of what Broadway Joe Namath said leading up to the game. Still, to this day, he did what is considered taboo to most athletes. He guaranteed victory. 3 days before the game, at the Miami Touchdown Club, which is apparently a real thing, and it was established in 1959 and has its own website, so check it out. Shout out to Dade County or .A County, whatever that means. Namath's verbatim quote was, "We're going to win Sunday, I guarantee it." There was certainly reason for skepticism regarding the brash statement made by Namath. The Baltimore Colts were formidable to say the least. The Colts were headed by arguably the best coach in the sport's history, Don Shula. Now cool your jets, Belichick homers. In Shula's career, he amassed an astounding 328 versus 156 record over an extensive 33 years, culminating in an astounding 667 win percentage. In 1968, the Baltimore Colts finished 13-1 in the NFL, tops in both their division and the league. They also managed to avenge their only loss by knocking off the formidable Browns, yes, I said formidable, and Browns in the same sentence, by a score of 34-0, a score they seemingly would never recover from. They also only lost one game the year before making it 2 losses over the last 2 seasons. Shula was the coach of the year. Quarterback Earl Morrall was the NFL's most valuable player, and he was backed up by a Hall of Famer and crew cut enthusiast, Johnny Unitas. Now the big question is, how did Joe Namath and the Jets do this? The long and skinny of it is the Jets were efficient and the Colts were not. The game started off slowly, but the Colts' woes on offense and special teams are specifically highlighted. Let's start with drive 1. The Jets receive the ball, they drive 20 yards, then a punt by a name that certainly dates this game, Curly Johnson. I heard the fat guy's great uncle used to be his tailor. Let's go on to drive 2, where the Colts have possession of the ball, 54 yards through a balanced offense, and then they miss a short 27-yard field goal. Ball goes back to the Jets, who only managed 21 yards, and more work for the ageless Curly Johnson, who came to the game with some of the finest fit linens this side of Dade County. Or Dade, whatever you want to say. Drive 4 is a 3-and-out for the Colts with another punt. Drive 5 picks up the action. This is where Jets Pro Bowl wide receiver George Sauer fumbles after the catch, and the Colts recover at the Jets' 13-yard line. Drive number 6, after another impressive Tom Matei run, NFL MVP Earl Morrall is picked off in the end zone by Randy Beverly. On to drive 7, where the Jets put together a drive on the back of running back Matt Snell. 4 positive runs in a row, followed by 4 Joe Namath pass attempts, resulting in a Matt Snell touchdown run. The PAT is good, and these were the old days. Remember the rules when Pats were almost always good? Those were the days. On to drive 8. The Colts drive it 44 yards, and unfortunately for scapegoat kicker Lou Michaels, another miss from 46 yards. On to drive 9, where the Jets put together some positive offense, but the woes on special teams continue for both teams as Jets field goal kicker Jim Turner misses from 41. On to drive 10, where Colts running back Tom Matte breaks a run for 58 yards, setting a then Super Bowl record, which would stand until broken by Marcus Allen of the Oakland Raiders years later. Surely this will end in points for the powerhouse Baltimore Colts? Surely not. Earl Morrall is picked off in the end zone again. 2 more fruitless drives and the game heads to halftime, with a low-scoring 7-0 lead for the New York Jets. Following halftime, the Colts receive the ball, and the first snap is an 8-yard run by Tom Matte that is fumbled and recovered by the Jets. Jets do little to advance their position, and on the second drive of the second half, Jim Turner gets some redemption and pads the Jets' lead to 10. The Colts responded in the next drive by losing 2 yards and remaining at their own 24-yard line. Now this might be a good time to mention a contributing reason to why the Jets' defense was so stout this year. The legendary coach and defensive coordinator Buddy Ryan was the Jets' defensive line coach. He was most notably known for coordinating the famed '85 Bears defense to prominence, and less notably known for siring these 2 handsome Clydesdale studs. The Jets have a good showing on offense the following drive behind the efficient, brash, and interceptionless Joe Namath. Namath puts them into field goal range, and Jim Turner is successful from 30 yards, 13-0 Jets, putting this game further out of reach for the scoreless Colts. Shuli has had enough. It's time to pull out the big guns. The Colts trot out all-time haircut legend Johnny Unitas in place of the current NFL most valuable player, Earl Morrall, and in his big first drive, Unitas manages putrid results, 5 yards, followed by a very short punt. This switch may have been too little, too late. The Namath to Sauer connection pushes the Jets all the way to the Colts 2, but the ever-conservative Weeb Eubank gives kicker Jim Turner the nod, who successfully extends the Jets' lead to 3 scores at 16-0. Keep in mind, in 1968, the 2-point conversion was not yet implemented. It was introduced in 1994, the same year Tonya Harding was stripped of her National Figure Skating Championship. They did it in the AFL, but not the NFL, and the merged league didn't recognize it, although it did try a strange version called the Pressure Point in the very same 1968 preseason, but that's another long-winded, elaborate story for another day. Unitas' intent on righting the ship ends up following the Morrall game plan and throws an interception from the Jets' 25 into the hands of former hillbilly Randy Beverly for his second pick of the game. Jets follow up with a drive in field goal territory where kicker Jim Turner attempts his Super Bowl record 5th field goal attempt and pulls a real reverse Scott Norwood and misses wide left. Things around this time do actually get a little spicier to break the monotony. Drive 22, all-time hero and haircut Johnny U put the Colts on the board with a laborious 80-yard drive. The Colts managed to pull 7 on the board, finishing with a Jerry Hill 1-yard run, stealing the glory from Colts wonder pony Tom Matte. I did say things would get a little spicier in following the touchdown. The Colts managed to recover an onside kick in the Super Bowl. In my young history, I thought the Colts only gave up onside kicks in Super Bowls, but as it turns out, they originally recovered them. I do have to comment on the beauty of this kick. It seems far and away better than the lame attempts I can recall in recent times. This, of course, is Pat McAfee aside. Johnny U manages to push the Colts into the red zone, undoubtedly making the 18-point underdog Jets nervous. But they are unable to score. I felt they should have attempted a field goal here to cut the lead to one score, not have to put the already shaky kicker in for a long field goal attempt with the game on the line. But Shula opted to ride Unitas' hand, which came up short. The Jets wasted more time on offense and punted, leaving not enough time on the game clock for the Colts to score, which they didn't. The Colts finished with the ball, but not with Super Bowl III. That belonged to the major 18-point underdog New York Jets. This will be the only time they've won the Super Bowl or have made it since. But Old Glory is still some glory, right, Detroit and Cleveland? Thank you for watching the biggest upset in Super Bowl history. Let us know in the comments what NFL deep dive you want to hear next. Let me know if it's .A or Dade County. And subscribe for more NFL lore, live streams, and weekly pick videos.